Greetings, we traveled to Lakeland, Florida in early June 2015 for today's episode. This is the tragic tale of a good-hearted, devoted nurse whose life was cut short by an unthinkable act of violence. Angela Barrett, who resided in Lakeland, Florida, was 38 years old. As a registered nurse, she was employed at Lakeland Regional Health. She was respected at Lakeland Regional Health for her generosity and encouragement. Everyone who knew her adored her because of her kind heart and pleasant smile. The focus of Angela's life was serving others. In 1997, shortly after graduating from Kathleen High School, she wed Michael Baird, a high school scammer. The pair appeared to be a match made in heaven. For nearly 20 years, they spent weekends strolling through the park and frequently went to Lakeland Tigers games. Through good times and bad, Michael had Angela's support. Michael was given a renal failure diagnosis in 2014. He would not be able to survive without a transplant, the doctors warned. Angela immediately gave one of her kidneys to save his life. She was hailed as a hero by her hospital colleagues and coworkers. The folklore even included a narrative about her selflessness. The local newspaper in Lakeland. But barely 6 months after his recovery, Angela's idyllic life came to an abrupt end. Michael made a divorce filing. Angela's friends reported she was devastated, but he blamed it on irreconcilable differences. Michael swiftly remarried Stephanie after moving out. Since then, he had not seen the yoga instructor. Angela found it difficult to read over her after the divorce. After relocating to a modest house on Meadowbrook Avenue, she volunteered and reconnected with friends in her spare time. During this distinct period, Angela's destiny started to fall apart. God's plan for me is only 6 months following Michael's recovery. Angela was planning a food drive for low-income families around the beginning of June 2015. She devoted hours on creating flyers, which she then displayed at nearby supermarkets like Wendy's and Publix. She also discussed returning to school to become a pediatrician. Angela had a challenging time rebuilding her life after the divorce. After moving to a little house on Meadowbrook Avenue, Angela concentrated on volunteering and getting back in touch with old acquaintances. Her religion became her strength during this trying time. Lakeland was already dark on the morning of June 8, 2015, and the calm streets were illuminated by a strong sun. Rogers' Angela Barrett decided to check on her around 15 a.m. on the 9th. It was strange that he hadn't seen Angela in 2 days. Usually she woke up early. In addition to Winn-Dixie and Publix, Angela started discussing going back to school to fulfill a goal she had placed aside throughout her marriage, becoming a pediatric nurse specialist. Angela clung to hope. Later, her friend Sarah Tompkins told reporters that she was gradually rediscovering herself. Sadly, Angela was never able to witness the realization of her goals. Angela's life would end tragically a few days later. Lakeland was already warm on the morning of June 8, 2015, as the sun shone down on the quiet streets. Ron froze in disbelief as he stepped into the living room. There was blood all over the walls and the silence was uncanny. Ron didn't initially glance. Shaking, he staggered back outside and dialed 911. Blood was all over the place. He informed me that the spectrum had been raised. Something horrible was going on, I believe. Within 15 minutes, Lakeland police officers showed up. Soon after, yellow police stations were used to fence off the neighborhood, and interested residents started congregating outside. First, Ron suspected that she had departed early for her Agape Food Bank charity work, but his worries increased when he noticed her silver Toyota Camry parked in the driveway. Something caught his attention as soon as he looked through the front window. As soon as Ron entered, a pungent, disagreeable smell hit him. Through the front window he looked. A hiker discovered a portion of Angela's mutilated body in a forested region close to the Lakeland Highlands representative, preserve only 3 miles away, and promptly contacted law enforcement. Once a mystery, Angela's death now suggested a horrific act of violence. Police, led by Detective Carla Jensen, a seasoned investigator with keen intuition, arrived at Angela Barrett's residence on Matterport 18th to find a scene that implied a violent and chaotic battle. Officers slowly made their way inside the house. There was chaos in the living room. Blood was splattered over the carpet and walls due to gradual pressure. With cutting-edge equipment at their disposal, the forensic team started painstakingly recording the scene. Ron sat on the sidewalk and answered the officers' questions, still clearly upset. The authorities found evidence of a violent battle inside the house, but Angela was nowhere to be found. It became clear that she was gone when investigators searched the house further. After an urgent backup call, forensic teams began to arrive at midday to search the property. Equipped with cutting-edge equipment, the forensic team started meticulously recording the scene with luminol. However, nothing that was really valuable, such as Angela's electronics and jewelry, appeared to be missing. More concerning evidence was discovered by detectives in the kitchen, where a big butcher knife was missing from the knife lock and blood was gathered next to the sink. Experts in forensics gathered hair strands, shivering, and fingerprints. Additionally, they noticed a lone muddy footprint outside the sliding glass door. By noon, the probe had broadened its scope beyond the lock. Officers conducted a door-to-door check of the neighborhood and asked residents if they had heard or seen anything strange. One neighbor reported hearing what she believed to be a loud altercation the previous evening. Detective Jensen established a search team campus. Later that night, police contemplated the potential of a robbery, but there doesn't seem to be anything particularly valuable missing, such as Angela's jewelry or the kitchen electronics. Investigators found, finding more remains in the surrounding areas. Their greatest worries were validated by the discovery. This was not an isolated violent incident. Late into the night, investigators put the pieces of the puzzle together. Knowing they were dealing with a vicious and cunning criminal, they were resolved to track down Angela's killer. Soon, forensic evidence gathered from the body and house would be crucial to the case's resolution. Barrett's spouse was the first person police questioned in relation to Angela Barrett's death. Michael was a well-known real estate agent in Lakeland, Florida, at the age of 40. He had established a reputation for being endearing and fragrant. He had done well at selling houses with treatment. However, Michael had a darker side that would soon be revealed beneath his polished facade. Angela and Michael had been infatuated in high school. One neighbor said she heard what she thought was a loud quarrel the previous evening, but it was written off as a domestic conflict. A fresh lead surfaced later that night. This was not an isolated violent incident. Late into the night, investigators meticulously put the pieces of evidence together. Many people in the neighborhood were startled by how quickly he got married again and how coldly he dismissed Angela. Michael seemed compliant and calm when police brought him in for interrogation on the evening of July 9, 2015. He informed investigators that Angela was last seen alive while he was at home with Stephanie. He said it was one of the fact shows and that we were watching game throws. Michael was a well-known real estate agent in Lakeland, Florida, at the age of 40. Michael had established a reputation for being persuasive and charming, which helped him succeed in the real estate industry. But beneath his smooth veneer lay a darker side that was about to come to light. He had been married for almost 20 years to Angela, whom he had fallen in love with in high school. Angela had supported Michael through all of his struggles, even giving her kidney to help him survive his fight with kidney failure. However, Michael filed for divorce, claiming irreconcilable differences barely 6 months after he recovered. His mistress, Stephanie, a yoga instructor, was soon remarried. Many people in their town had been astonished by Michael's quick new marriage and his icy rejection of Angela. He was helpful and stayed composed when police took him in for interrogation on the evening of June 9, 2015. He admitted to detectives that the night Angela was last seen alive, he was with Stephanie. He said that one of their favorite series was Game of Thrones, which we were watching. Although more investigation is necessary, partial fingerprints found on the sliding glass door may be a match for Michael. Detectives also found that Michael had sent Angela several texts and made the word out, requesting that they talk things out. Despite keeping his distance, Michael's actions during the interrogation prompted difficult questions. He was temporarily released by the police, who continued to closely monitor him. Michael was under increasing strain, and investigators were aware that he was keeping secrets. His stepmother-in-law became the focus of the second-person investigators. Inconsistencies started to show up when investigators asked Michael about his financial status. According to his records, he had taken out multiple loans to stay afloat. His real estate business had been underperforming, and he was having financial difficulties. Characteristics that initially drew Michael Barrett to her. During Michael's real estate show, Stephanie and Michael had started dating as an affair. Given that Angela had just months prior given Michael a kidney as a noble deed, her friends had called the betrayal tragic. Michael and Stephanie's rapid marriage following Michael and Angela's divorce caused their father to take notice. Additionally, detectives presented Michael with proof that Angela had lately found documents that connected him to fraud in real estate. The cops were not persuaded, even though Michael denied knowing anything about what Angela had discovered. The detectives' suspicions regarding his innocence were further heightened by forensic evidence found in Angela's house. Michael was temporarily freed by the police. However, he was closely watched. Investigators believed he was hiding something significant, and the pressure on him was growing. Stephanie Barrett, the second person of interest, quickly came into focus. The new wife of Angela's ex-husband, Stephanie Barrett, was 35 years old and had developed a devoted following as a yoga instructor at a small studio in downtown Lakeland. Michael Barrett was initially attracted to her because of her captivating appearance and self-assured demeanor. During one of Michael's real estate showings, Stephanie and Michael had begun an affair. The betrayal was later regarded by Angela's friends as extremely painful, especially considering that only a few months prior, Angela had given Michael her kidney. In their close-knit society, Stephanie and Michael's hasty marriage following the divorce caused some curiosity. Ever since the affair, Angela and Stephanie had been at odds. Detectives took Stephanie in for interrogation on June 10, 2015. She looked cool and collected as she arrived at the station wearing sportswear and toting a chic Lululemon purse. Stephanie initially responded to the questions in a composed manner, stating that, despite their prior disagreements, she had no animosity toward Angela. She said that although Angela was a little attractive, she had a hard time getting over her split from Michael. Stephanie's behavior changed a little when the police questioned her about where she was on the evening of June 7th, the night Angela was last seen alive. Stephanie's statement that they had spent the evening watching Game of Thrones at home aligned with Michael's investigators. To bolster her alibi, she added that they had placed an order for takeaway from a nearby restaurant called Beef O'Brady. Investigators questioned her for more details, but they also praised her composed and self-assured manner. Stephanie and Angela's peculiar bond soon emerged as a major focus of the inquiry. Stephanie had been spotted arguing with Angela at a Publix grocery store 2 days before, to her murder. Officers swiftly came after identifying the journal's specific reports and seeing the first page with Angela Barrett's name and the Polk County Sheriff's Office's contact information. They found pages of Angela's thorough notes regarding Michael and Stephanie Barrett within. Angela had accused the pair of engaging in illicit activities, such as money laundering and real estate fraud. She even wrote about the actor who was fronting them and what she heard. The journal was carefully inspected by primary investigator Detective Carla Jensen. Its contents reveal how Angela became aware of the alleged harassment from Michael and Stephanie. Angela's attempt to present the information to authorities was disclosed in one entry, which was made just 2 weeks prior to her murder. This finding raised the possibility that her murder was an attempt to silence her. There were concerns about the journal's existence. What had caused it to be buried in the ground? But she started to lose her temper. Stephanie became angry and insisted that she had lent her car to a friend that night when detectives approached her about the fact that her vehicle had been seen close to Angela's house the night of the murder. She was unable to give a name or any supporting documentation, though, when questioned. Her formerly certain tone started to change as the interview went on. The transaction from the day before Angela vanished included goods that authorities thought might be connected to the crime, including garbage bags and duct tape. The investigation went into overdrive with this new evidence. Investigators started going over Michael and Stephanie Barrett's statements again. In addition to suggesting a potential reason, the journal's search for discrepancies revealed that Angela had been actively working as far as their minds would allow. The case changed course when Angela's journal was found. It wasn't merely a bit of nepsis for the police. Angela's voice was providing hints from the afterlife. The police focused on an investigation as it became more complex. Detective Carla Jensen, 42, was an unexpected suspect, the principal investigator in the case of Angela Barrett. Carla had worked for the Polk County Sheriff's Office for 15 years. Her reputation as a committed detective, renowned for her keen intuition and no-nonsense approach, could resolve even the most difficult cases for a respected member of the law enforcement community. But beneath her polished exterior lay a private secret that would soon be exposed. June 14th, 2015. Kevin grabbed it up out of curiosity and opened it. Angela Barrett's name appeared on the journal's opening page. As soon as Kevin realized the importance, he called the Port County Sheriff's Office. Realizing that the journal might be an important piece of evidence in the investigation, officers showed up right away. The officers discovered pages of Angela's thorough notes regarding Michael and Stephanie Barrett within. Angela had accused the pair of engaging in illicit activities, such as money laundering and real estate fraud. In response to questions concerning her relationship with Michael, Carla first denied any misconduct. She asserted that she had followed all the correct processes and that the probe was unaffected by her personal life. But investigators found disturbing information. For instance, important pieces of evidence, such as the real identity of Angela, of the alleged illegal actions of Michael and Stephanie. Angela intended to convey the evidence to the authorities according to one entry that was made just 2 weeks prior to her murder. This finding raised the possibility that Angela's murder was an attempt to silence her. Important questions were raised by the journal's existence in the woods. What had caused its burial there? Police hypothesized that the murderer attempted to destroy the damning evidence in a panic, but was unable to fully conceal it. The area was far enough from Angela's house, roughly 12 miles, to evade detection right away. The amount of circumstantial evidence kept growing. GPS data showed that Carla was close to the forested area where Angela's journal was later discovered, and she had communicated with Michael the day before Angela vanished. Investigators also found video footage of Carla buying rubbish bags and duct tape from nearby residents, things like the ones on the receipt signed by the journal. As the amount of evidence against her increased, the receipt included goods that authorities thought might be connected to the crime, such as garbage bags and duct tape. The investigation was sent into overdrive by this fresh information, which raised the possibility that the murder was meticulously planned. Investigators began going over Michael and Stephanie Barrett's statements in an effort to find any inconsistencies. The journal verified that Angela had been attempting to find out about their illicit activities in addition to revealing a possible motive. One of the most important discoveries in the research was the discovery of Angela's journal. The notebook was more than simply proof to the police. It was Angela's voice providing vital hints from beyond the dead. Stephanie, 35, a local yoga instructor and proprietor of Sunset Serenity Yoga Studio, had initially presented herself as a rapacious stepmother figure, willing to assist authorities as the probe went on. But because of all the relationships she had maintained, detectives had already begun to suspect her. Days prior to Anne's murder, witnesses described a furious dispute between them and a public school grocery store. "You should have stayed the bleep out of our lives," Stephanie was heard shouting. When forensic technicians conducted a more detailed examination of Angela's remains, the inquiry took a significant turn. Fibers discovered on the mutilated body of Angela. Furthermore, Angela's 3 DNA testers verified the blood spatter evidence found in Stephanie's garage. Angela's journal was also recovered by investigators. It became evident as the investigation progressed that their closeness extended beyond their work relationship. Carla and Michael had been having an affair since his divorce from Angela, according to the discovery of a history of romantic connection. But prior to his union with Stephanie, the department was rocked by this revelation. Carla was taken off the case right away, and an internal investigation was started. On June 9th, surveillance footage saw Stephanie purchasing cleaning products and soft, heavy-duty waste bags at the store. Police used a warrant to arrest Stephanie when she was in class at a yoga studio on the morning of June 17th. Officers said she reacted with a mixture of fury and shock. At first, she objected, saying she had nothing to do with her dismissal. Carla maintained that she had followed all the correct processes and that the probe was unaffected by her personal life. But more research turned up a concerning disparity. Carla's dismissal of early suspicions regarding Michael as baseless and the delay in forensic analysts receiving important pieces of evidence, such as Angela's notebook, raised questions about how she handled the investigation. Just at the start, but not all of it, Angela's brother, Pastor William Carter, told local press to bring my sister back in response to the growing evidence. She was so deserving of better. The Texas billboard Stephanie Berryhart was arrested because the authorities were certain they had located her, and the evidence against her was strong. More than a year after Angela Barrett was found guilty of murder, Stephanie Barrett's trial got underway in early March 2017. Angela's family, friends, and the media were all in the courtroom, hoping that justice would be done for the good-hearted nurse whose life had been tragically taken. In addition to the horrible crime, the case had attracted widespread attention because of the alleged money laundering operations and the ramifications from Stephanie's well-known yoga business. Carla's tale started to fall apart. Growing skepticism now eclipsed her formerly flawless reputation. Investigators thought she interfered with the investigation because her personal relationship with Michael had affected her judgment and, perhaps, directly contribute to the crime's cover-up. An already intricate network of treachery and deceit was further complicated by the Takala inquiry, which signaled a significant turning point in Angela Barrett's case. This was not merely a habitual offense. This was a deliberate, planned murder. The jury was decided by Landers. They maintained that Stephanie's involvement with Rod Dreffer and DeLangela in cold blood was due to her upbringing. Ron Davis, 43, argued in Stephanie Bertini's defense that the prosecution's case was predicated on assumption and that the evidence against her was circumstantial. Her alibi and Davis, a seasoned criminal defense attorney, started to fall apart. At first, Stephanie, 35, a local yoga teacher and proprietor of Sunset Serenity Yoga Studio, had posed as a distraught stepmother who was willing to assist the police. Investigators had long suspected her involvement, but her history of conflict with Angela increased suspicions. Days before Angela's death, witnesses remembered a heated altercation between Stephanie and Angela in a public supermarket. Stephanie was heard saying, "You should have stayed out of our lives," during the dispute. "Right now, you will regret it." The prosecution requested the maximum punishment during the sentencing hearing. There was no chance of life behind bars. Landers recalled to the court how unselfish Angela had been in saving Michael's life by giving a kidney, only to be misled and brutally killed. According to her, Stephanie Barrett killed a woman who would have done anything to help others. Investigators also found Angela's lost journal, which included alarming details regarding Michael and Stephanie's alleged financial misdeeds, and Stephanie's defense lawyer. One possible reason for Angela's murder was revealed by these entries. Detectives created a thorough chronology of the events leading up to her death using witness accounts, security footage, and phone records. Stephanie's yoga studio was visited by authorities on the morning of June 17th. Following Stephanie Barrett's sentencing in March 2017, the case's participants' lives continued to develop in a surprising manner. Life behind bars became a brutal reality for Stephanie. Because of the gruesome nature of the murder, the Florida Department of Corrections placed her in a high-security institution. She received a life sentence without the chance of release, Angel Barrett's murder, and she soon discovered that the nice life she had previously enjoyed as a young child would be very different from jail life. She apologized for what she had done in interviews. He insisted that he was not involved in Angela's death and denied knowing anything about Stephanie's behavior. But given his intimate involvement in the investigation and the couple's alleged illicit activity, detectives thought Michael's denial was odd. Michael filed for divorce from Stephanie in 2018 while she was still serving her prison sentence, while Stephanie's arrest brought solace to Angela's family. The lead investigator on Angela's murder case, Detective Carla Jensen, was reportedly romantically involved with Michael. During the investigation, Carla's covert involvement with Michael was exposed. However, there were significant ethical questions posed by her involvement in the case. In late 2018, Michael wed Carla in a secret ceremony following his divorce from Stephanie. There were questions about this union. You may read more stories at noiseagrant.com. In Carla's case, Stephanie Barrett's trial started in early March 2017, over a year following the brutal death of Angela. Angela's friends, family, and the media all crammed into the courtroom, all anticipating that justice would be done, and that aside from her work as a detective, she was not involved in Angela's death. The couple tried to live a tranquil life away from the East Side when they relocated to a modest suburban house in Lakeland, Florida. The Barrett family, still in shock from Angela's passing, were conflicted about Michael, Carla, and Stephanie's outcomes. Michael Ray Glanders, 47, a prosecutor renowned for his tough stance on violent crimes, meticulously laid out the case against Stephanie, according to an interview by Angela's brother, Pastor William Carter. He concentrated on the two most important pieces of forensic evidence: fibers from Stephanie's house that matched those on Angela's body, and blood traces found in her garage. Angela's notebook, which included thorough notes that linked Stephanie and her husband Michael to a real estate fraud scheme and other unlawful actions, was also brought to light by Landis. Landis informed the jury that this was a well-planned, deliberate murder rather than a crime of passion. He maintained that Stephanie killed Angela without hesitation or regret because she was desperate to hide her role in the scam. Lauren Davis, Stephanie's 43-year-old defense lawyer, retorted that the evidence against her client was mostly presumptive and only circumstantial. Davis, who is well known for her calm demeanor in court, implied that the evidence might have been fabricated by someone else to implicate Stephanie. To learn more, go to www.fema.gov. She also highlighted the absence of first-hand witnesses to the murder and drew attention to chronology irregularities that raised questions about reasonable doubt. According to Davis, Stephanie's behavior following Angela's murder did not indicate guilt because she was under a lot of strain and had been stuck in a poisonous relationship with Michael. The jury arrived at their verdict following 2 days of deliberation. Stephanie Barrett was found guilty on March 22, 2017, of first-degree murder, body dissection, and evidence tampering. As the verdict was read, the courtroom fell silent, and Angela's relatives sobbed in private, their tears a mixture of sorrow and hopelessness. The prosecution requested the harshest punishment possible at the sentencing phase: life in prison without the possibility of release. Greg Landers, the state attorney, reminded the court of Angela's great compassion and how she saved Michael's life by donating her kidney, only to be treacherous and brutally killed in retaliation. A woman who would do anything to help others was killed by Stephanie Barrett. Landers argued in a steady but passionate voice. By pointing out the chaos in Stephanie's personal life and the tremendous strain from her tumultuous marriage, defense lawyer Lauren Davis, on the other hand, begged for mercy. However, after weighing all the evidence, the court made it quite evident that there was no room for leniency given the severity of the crime. This was not an act of emotional instability or desperation. The court described this as a ruthless, premeditated act of violence. Stephanie was given a life sentence without the possibility of release. Stephanie Barrett received a life sentence without the possibility of release on March 30th, 2017. Even though they were happy that justice had been done, Angela's family still had to deal with the terrible grief of her untimely passing. Nothing could fill the void left by Angela's passing, even if they had battled for justice. No sentence can bring Angela back, but at least we know the truth is out and she will be remembered for the love she gave, her brother, Pastor William Carter, told the media after the fact. Remember to share, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the following story.